The girl had never been with a man because she was ugly. She unexpectedly developed feelings for the CEO lying in the coffin. After they had kissed for 3 minutes, the CEO suddenly had a physiological reaction. The girl was completely unaware of it. 3 months later she began experiencing morning sickness, and her belly grew larger and larger. Strangely, there was a dragon pattern mark on her abdomen indicating pregnancy. Her mother-in-law was stunned. After investigation they discovered the girl had had sexual relations with the man in the coffin. This matter brought shame on the entire family. When the grandmother saw the surveillance footage she flew into a rage. Everyone was berating the girl. Only her husband, who had hastily married her, watched the footage and, instead of being angry, was overjoyed, because he was the man who had been lying in the coffin. It turned out that 3 months earlier, the CEO, in order to find the people framing him, had faked his death and lain in a coffin at the funeral home. He eventually learned that the man was his half-brother. His brother had just left. A mortuary makeup artist, who was naturally unattractive, came to prepare his appearance. Unexpectedly, there was a lit love-inducing incense stick beside the coffin. The girl smelled it and immediately felt dizzy and faint. The CEO also inhaled the smoke and became disoriented. He seemed to forget he was only feigning death, and suddenly dragged the girl into the coffin. Then they had sexual intercourse. When the girl woke up, she thought it had just been a dream and paid it no mind. Shortly after, the girl's parents came to her, and said their family had previously been betrothed to the CEO's family, asking the girl to marry the deceased CEO in place of her foster sister. The girl, considering that she was too ugly to marry anyone, agreed to her parents' request. At that moment, the foster sister who had been watching secretly rejoiced, and planned to marry the CEO's brother. When the girl arrived at the villa, the CEO's grandmother took a liking to her and did not reject her for being ugly. The girl promised to care for the grandmother on behalf of her deceased husband. At that moment, the foster sister's family entered and taunted the girl as a widow, saying she had no right to compete for the position of mistress of the Shin family. The CEO's stepmother even slapped her, declaring that the family would be inherited by her son from now on. But in the next moment, the CEO walked in, and everyone was stunned. Some thought he had risen from the dead. The younger brother had previously witnessed the CEO appear to have stopped breathing, and could not understand why he had suddenly appeared. The CEO explained that he had been feigning death. His aim was to find whoever had framed him. Having said that, he approached the girl and decided to turn the pretend marriage into a real one and marry her, because both had been drugged and were incoherent at the time. They hadn't clearly seen each other's faces and still believed it was their first meeting. At dinner that evening, the grandmother told her 2 grandsons that whoever sires a child will be the heir to the Shin family. Before she finished speaking, the girl suddenly began to retch. After the grandmother took her pulse, she discovered the girl was pregnant. Everyone was stunned. They insisted that the girl and the CEO had been strangers before, and concluded the child must be another man's. They intended to drive the girl out of the Shin family, but the CEO was adamant about keeping her. Secretly, he had his assistant investigate who the child's father was, and that investigation went on for a full 3 months. The girl's belly had continued to grow, and the stepmother was stunned when she noticed a dragon pattern pregnancy mark on the girl's abdomen. Only someone carrying Shin family blood would display that pattern. The foster mother realized the girl might be carrying the CEO's child. She investigated what had happened that night at the funeral home and discovered that the girl and the CEO had had intercourse. They failed to truthfully tell the grandmother about it and instead framed the girl, accusing her of having had relations with the man in the coffin. The grandmother believed the girl was carrying a ghost fetus, and demanded the girl terminate the pregnancy and leave the Shin family. Meanwhile, the CEO also checked the surveillance footage from that night, and after watching it he was instantly extremely excited, because